Southern Ohio Farm Show. This is Gigi Neal of OSU Extension in Claremont County, agricultural and natural resources educator.
I'm James Morris, the Agricultural and Natural Resources and Community Development Educator for the Ohio State University Extension in Brown County.
Hello, my name is Richard Purdon. I'm with the Ohio State University Extension. I am the Ag and Natural Resource Educator for Adams County and the Community Development Educator for Adams County, Ohio.
And I'm Brooke Beam, the Ohio State University Extension Educator for Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Community Development in Highland County. And we will be your hosts for the Southern Ohio Farm Show.
Hello, I'm Dave Apsley. I'm a forester and a natural resources specialist with Ohio State University Extension. Today I'm going to introduce you to one of my least favorite tree species. It's called Tree of Heaven or Ailanthus. The reason Tree of Heaven or Ailanthus is one of my least favorite species is that it's not native to here in Ohio and it's causing quite a problem on many of our woodland properties. It's also a host plant and favored by the spotted lanternfly. So how do we identify Tree of Heaven? Well, first of all, it's got very large leaves. These are compound, we call them pinnately compound leaves because they're kind of like a feather. They've got a central rachis or stem and the leaflets are on both sides. What's unique about Tree of Heaven, it can have from as few as 11 leaflets to as many as 41. And I've seen Tree of Heaven leaves that are 4 to 5 feet in length, especially on young sprouts like this. So again, pinnately compound, large leaflets. The teeth along the edges are fairly irregular, but what we're going to typically see is a couple of rounded teeth right near the base of the leaf. And these rounded teeth will typically have glands or little bumps on them. Great ID characteristic. They'll also have an offensive odor. I just broke this leaf off of this tree and almost wants to choke me up. It's got a really offensive odor. Some folks say it smells like rotten peanut butter. I don't know how to describe it, but it is an offensive odor. Again, very large compound leaves, up to 41 leaflets. Other characteristics are it typically has a very stout stem. This from here to the tip is new growth from this year. So it's a very aggressive tree. It can grow very fast, especially when it's a sprout like this. I've seen sprouts grow 6 to 8, even sometimes almost 10 feet in height in a given year. So they're very stout twigs, very common sense if you think about it. To support a leaf that's 4 feet long, it's going to need a very stout twig. These twigs, if you cut into them or break into them, they're going to have a peanut butter colored center or pith. So that's another great ID characteristic. And then also it'll produce flowers. Flowers are pretty nondescript. They're kind of yellowish. But it varies on the trees because these are dioecious. You'll have separate male and female trees. The female flowers will mature and produce a winged fruit. The fruits are going to be in clusters up in the tree. This time of year they may even have a little reddish color to them. As they mature they may be yellowish to pink. Actually fairly attractive, but again only on the female trees. The other unique thing about the fruits, they're in clusters and they hang down very similar from a distance to what look like ash fruits. But these fruits are unique in that they're winged and twisted, but they attach on one end and you're going to have wings on both sides. So you're going to have a fruit that's about this long. The two winged fruits or seeds are going to be in the middle and then they're going to be twisted, but they'll hang from the end. And we'll show you a close-up shot of that very soon here. And then finally, they are very clonal. They tend to sprout. If you try to kill a Tree of Heaven without using an herbicide, by cutting it down, it'll sprout very prolifically and be a very aggressive sprouter and hard to control. In a woodland setting, we want to typically kill the tree slowly using an herbicide to prevent that resprouting. And then finally, the bark. The bark is unique. Some folks say it looks like a snake skin. Others say it looks more like a cantaloupe skin, but it's typically smooth and gray in appearance. And then you're going to see this pattern in it that I think looks a lot like a snake skin. Again, Tree of Heaven or Ailanthus It's a non-native, aggressive plant that is becoming a problem in our woodlands because it competes with our native trees. It's also preferred species by the spotted lanternfly. So this is one to keep an eye out for, and when you have the opportunity, try to control it and keep it in check. Thanks, have a great day, and please take at least part of it to spend it in the woods.
Hello, my name is Richard Purden with OSU Extension. I'm the Ag and Natural Resource Educator and Community Development Educator for Adams County, Ohio. And today I want to talk about timothy. The forage timothy is very popular among our beef producers and especially our horse producers and owners. And there's a reason why. Timothy is often known for its great stands, great energy and protein values, and also it's a great forage that can be grown across many of our wet soils or our poorly drained soils and low fertile soils. So timothy is a great forage. It's a cool season perennial forage that is a little bit later maturing than our orchard grass, our bluegrass, and our fescue forages out in the pasture and even in our hay fields. This forage produces a great amount of yield and when grown properly and provided enough nutrients. Timothy is a great forage for beef producers because it doesn't have as quite a high as protein levels as alfalfa or red clover or other legumes, but it does have a high palatability and a high digestibility that can serve beef cattle producers and horse owners very well. So some of the pros to timothy is that once again it can be established on poor soils. Usually pH is between 5.5 and 6.5, and poorly drained soils. That's where probably its most key characteristic makes it the most popular forage in areas such as southern Ohio, parts of Brown County, and even parts of Adams County that might be poorly drained. In other areas of Ohio too that might be poorly drained. So another aspect, a characteristic of timothy is that it can get quite tall. It can get about 3 foot to 3.5, maybe even 4 foot tall if grown properly. And one unique characteristic of timothy is that it has what we call a corm, which is basically a storage mechanism at the root bottom of the stem or the growth habit that can actually shoot lateral shoots or what we call tillers to expand or reproduce new plants. This corm actually makes it winter hardy too. So it's got a large area, a large space, about like a wild garlic or something that can store energy and food for the winter time. So winter survival can be quite well. This field was harvested the end of, or the middle of June, because it was just starting to pre-boot or starting to make a seed head. Now, as you can see, it's starting to flower, or what we call the anther stage, where it's making blooms and about ready to make a seed. The thing with timothy is it usually matures later in the season. Orchard grass is about 2 weeks ahead of it. Our clovers, our alfalfas are usually about 2 to 2.5 weeks ahead of timothy. This is what makes it challenging to grow to some producers who like to mix grass with their legumes. If you try to raise timothy with red clover or alfalfa, most likely you'll have to harvest earlier to capture the quality of the legume of choice, But then you have to harvest the timothy early, which actually hurts the growth of the timothy and will actually reduce the stand over time. So mixing timothy with other cool season perennial forages is a challenge. So many producers opt to grow it alone. That's where you have to run into challenges such as keeping fertility levels a little bit higher, and seeding rates have to be higher. So expense can add up growing timothy because you have to sow more seed to get a pure stand, and also you have to supplement with more nitrogen fertilizer due to not having a legume companion crop. So there's 2 times a year you can actually sow timothy, in the fall and in the spring. I usually have my best results when I sow it in the fall, because in the spring, timothy needs to be sown at a higher rate and seeding rate, and it establishes better in the fall because it is more of a winter hardy or winter species type of plant. So usually I sow my timothy in the fall with a cover crop such as winter wheat or winter barley or something of that nature, or spelts, or any kind of small grain. Something that will protect that timothy over the winter time to get established and into the spring. So if you do sow it in the spring, make sure to increase seeding rates. So typical seeding rate is 3 to 8 pounds. Go with the higher rate in the spring, so 8 or 9 pounds per acre. And make sure that timothy is not sown too deep. This seed is a very small seed, one of our smallest forage seeds. Very light, very small in nature. So sowing it more than 1/4 of an inch will reduce the stand. Timothy is a great forage. It can provide a great palatable nutrition to your livestock. If you have any questions about timothy or need to know more about timothy and management characteristics, just give me a call, 937-544-2339. Everybody have a great day, and happy second cutting.